Good morning everyone, it's Danny from Orchid Nature. It's Sunday, so today we're gonna have a very chill day, which will be completely different than the previous video I made with the orchid order. I just noticed I was so high-pitched and ecstatic. I'm sorry if I hurt your ears. So anyway, back to the point. Today I'm gonna have a sort of an open discussion regarding a subject that I see is kind of taking over some orchid lovers. Now, the subject was asked on the Orchid Nature forum by Glenn. Also, I did notice another comment asking me about it or saying something about it. So yeah, this is using organic fertilizers versus chemical fertilizers. And on the forum, I feel that I kind of dismissed it without too much information or reason behind it. So yeah, I just want to clarify some stuff. I just want to learn more about the subject because I have some issues with the subject actually, have some concerns, maybe I don't fully understand it, so this is why it's an open discussion. Now first off, keep in mind I'm not a chemist, I'm not a scientist, and I don't even work in the agricultural side or field, so yeah, keep that in mind. I might make some wrong assumptions sometimes, and I will just limit myself to the knowledge that I have so far. Okay, so let's start the subject. Now basically, as you may know, chemical fertilizers refer to fertilizers that you most commonly find in stores. They are the ones that already come with the finished product that orchids or plants in general can absorb. A good chemical fertilizer is one that contains nitrate as a nitrogen source rather than urea or ammonium. So the goal with a chemical fertilizer is to try to recreate some stuff that they find in nature using artificial methods in a laboratory. Anyway, we all know these type of fertilizers. We all use them with success so far, but lately there has been a trend for organic fertilizers. And I know organic fertilizers have to do with things derived from manure and animal waste. So the main idea of organic fertilizers is to try to mimic as natural as possible the processes or the things that plants encounter in nature. The problem with them is that they don't necessarily give you the finished product. They have to go through some processes in order to obtain this finished compounds, and there are some issues especially regarding orchids with that. But first, let's talk some facts. So I'm going to direct you to the laptop to some articles that I found on the internet so we can talk a little bit more specific. Okay, so I did my research and I came up with two articles that I find interesting. So the first one is why we should choose organic fertilizers over chemical fertilizers. Now there are some points here that I don't have any knowledge about, so I will not discuss on them actually, because I really don't know and I don't want to say anything stupid, but there are some stuff that I find slightly inaccurate. So the first one would be soil friability. I don't know anything about this. If any of you guys are chemists, we can discuss about this and let me know if this actually is true, because I don't know anything regarding the subject, so I will not discuss this particular point. Soil microorganisms. What they say here is that chemical fertilizers affect microorganisms in the soil by reducing the pH, actually making the environment more acid. I think this is slightly wrong. I think this is a bit overreacted, and I'll tell you why. In the processes of decomposition, you get all sorts of byproducts like ammonium, CO2, carbon dioxide, and all sorts of other things that actually make the environment acid. Now this is a normal phenomenon. It happens in any decomposition, and for those of you who have planted tanks or aquariums, you know that old aquariums tend to be more acidic than new ones, and this is because all the fish waste has accumulated deep within the soil of the aquarium. Fish waste, plant waste, no matter, you know that pH is slightly more acidic. You have to maintain it slightly better. So I don't think this is a very, very valid point. Let's say organic material does acidify the environment, earthworms and microorganisms. Now, I'll tell you a little story. In my azalea pot, I found the hugest earthworm I have ever seen. And that pot contains soil, which is not a very good quality. Actually, I have to change it. Also, I fertilized it with a different fertilizer that is rich in urea. The earthworm was not affected at all. So again, I don't think this is a very, very valid point. I've never seen anything that could damage the microorganisms or organisms in my plant's pots. They flourish, and I don't know how to get rid of them. Okay, let's move on. Plant disease. What they say here is that high nitrogen as well as the lack of trace elements is also related to fungal and bacterial disease. I find something wrong here because it says that fast-release chemical fertilizers have a high nitrogen content compared to slow-release organic fertilizers, blah, blah, blah. Chemical fertilizers have too much nitrogen. Well, that's not the case. It depends on the fertilizer, doesn't it? And also they say that the lack of trace elements, blah, blah. Well, I do have in my fertilizer a lot of trace elements. There are those fertilizers which don't contain trace elements. Mine does, so I don't really see the purpose and logic of this statement. The balance of nitrogen depends on the fertilizer you use. Again, in my opinion, it's not okay to generalize like this. There are fertilizers that are high quality and fertilizers that are not that high quality, and they're just based on uric acids and they have no trace elements, and indeed they can have too much nitrogen in them. Nutrition and flavor, I'm not interested in this because we don't eat orchids, and yeah, basically that's it. I will give you the link to check it out. Now, these are some benefits of organic fertilizers. Okay, now let's read something that I really find really logical and very good to have in mind. And this is a vlog or a blog for people that live a vegan life. Now, it's, as I told you, organic fertilizers are based on animal waste or animal manure, actually. Here are a little things that are not mentioned in other articles. Now, animal manures from cows, pigs, chickens, everything. But it says here, did you know though that the manure you buy at your local gardening store may contain livestock grade hormones and antibiotics that can be readily absorbed by the plants you are growing? And this is a very valid point, because most of the manures come from large consumer-based farms which don't necessarily feed their animals very naturally. Not all of them, or most of them, feed them with all sorts of chemicals, growth hormones, and all sorts of additives which are not healthy in our food. And it says here something about discovering some hormones or something in cabbages and stuff like that. Anyway, in soil treated with these manures. Maybe this is not a problem with our orchids because we don't eat them, but if you're growing a vegetable garden, you really need to be careful with that. If you really want something bio, then I would suggest only using manures from your animals, because you know what you feed them, or a compost that comes from your garden, and you know you don't use pesticides and stuff like that. Anyway, so that's the only case where I could see organic fertilizers as safe. Other than that, I honestly don't trust the bottled things. I don't. Now, you have a lot of stuff here that you should read about and how they affect, what they can contain. Also, all sorts of diseases can pass on, like salmonella and stuff like that, which I find very valid. You do have some excerpts of stuff from treaties and stuff like that, medical updates, September, whatever stuff. Now, this is a side of what's not so good about organic fertilizers. I will not generalize. I don't know all the brands, but this is really something to take into consideration. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about our orchids, right? I ended the discussion on organic fertilizers, what they are, what damages they can do. But if we're not growing vegetable gardens and we're growing orchids, here's my main super high issue with them. Now, of course, they are animal waste. Now, for animal waste to reach nitrate, which is a form that can be absorbed by plants, they have to go through some processes. And I've discussed this so many times in my videos. You really know my opinion on microorganisms, beneficial microorganisms in the soil, that they're not there. Unfortunately, I've never found any proof of this. It's just my own logic, because I do have some knowledge about water chemistry and stuff. I just find little excerpts like this that comes from the American Orchid Society, which is something that I believe sometimes. So, okay, my issue with organic fertilizers in orchid pots is that because they're animal waste, they're not a finished product like chemical fertilizers. They need to go through a process called nitrification in order to be available for the orchid. Now this means that ammonium and urea are converted to nitrates and then nitrates, which is something that plants can pick up. Now if this thing doesn't happen, what you're gonna get is a very stinky pot because they will decompose eventually. It's not so easy though to keep bacterias, nitrifying bacterias in our pots, because we don't really have a moist environment all the time in our pots. We do let orchids dry out. We use chlorined water from our water source. But anyway, back to my subject. I don't believe there are any nitrifying bacteria in my pot, and I did find a little excerpt that really made my day. It just gives me a little hope that I may be right in my logic. Okay, it says here that fertilizers used on orchids should contain little or no urea. This is because soil organisms must first convert the nitrogen in urea to a form usable by plants, which is nitrate, as I told you, and since orchids do not grow in soil, this conversion does not occur efficiently. Now here's something new they say. Usually soils are better for bacteria cultures than our bark. Probably because it's not moist enough, probably because it has a different pH value. I'm not really sure about this. So imagine organic fertilizers starting to decompose in your orchid pot, and there's nobody there to transform all the ammonium into nitrate, which is available for plants. Imagine how that will burn the roots of your orchid, and how it will stink, and how it will actually help the bark decompose even faster. So yes, my friends, this is an open discussion, as I told you. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if I got it wrong, if I'm wrong with something, because I really want to understand the process myself. So far, my opinion is that it's just hype, really, especially with orchids. So alrighty, this is my side of the story, at least. I really don't intend on using organic fertilizers for my orchids, but I do want to know your experiences or your thoughts on the subject. So yeah, please, let's have a discussion. Okay, thank you guys for watching. You can leave me comments here, or you can go on the Orchid Nature forum if you want to show us pictures or stuff regarding the subject. We have a thread there regarding the subject. So if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Visit orchidnature.com because it's a nice place for our community. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining. Bye.